At 2:30 in the morning on February 28, 2026, while most of us were asleep, Donald Trump, or how I call him Sauron, posted an 8-minute video to Truth Social announcing that the United States had launched a war against Iran. He called it Operation Epic Fury. He said diplomacy had failed. He said Iran was a nuclear threat. He said he had no choice. He told the Iranian people their hour of freedom was at hand. He acknowledged American soldiers might die, and almost every single thing he said, he had said the opposite of, sometimes days before, sometimes hours before, sometimes by his own vice president in his own administration, on his own watch. This video is going through that speech, segment by segment, and show you, in Sauron's own words, in his own team's own words, and in the record of his own intelligence agencies, exactly what doesn't add up. Because when a country goes to war, the least the American people deserve is the truth about why. Let's go into this.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world.
February 27, so one day before, Sauron said, "We haven't made a final decision on whether to attack Iran. I'd love not to use the military, but sometimes you have to." He added, "We're talking later today. We'll have some additional talks today," framing an active decision, not a concluded one, the entire preceding day. Oman's foreign minister said hours before the strike, "Peace is within our reach. I think President Sauron sincerely wants a deal. He wants to have a diplomatic solution." A ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, after classified briefing, said, "We have not heard articulated a single good reason for why now is the moment to launch yet another war in the Middle East." Let's continue.
For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before.
When Sauron killed the Iranian general Soleimani in January 2020, he gave a very different message. "We took the action last night to stop a war. We did not take the action to start a war. I have deep respect for the Iranian people. They are a remarkable people with an incredible heritage and an unlimited potential. We do not seek regime change." After the June 2025 Operation Midnight Hammer strikes, the White House issued a formal statement statement. Our view has been very clear. We don't want a regime change. We want to end their nuclear program. And then we want to talk to the Iranians about a long-term settlement. Also, he campaigned on an America first, non-interventionist foreign policy and repeatedly criticized the Bush and Obama administration's Middle East wars as disasters during the 2024 campaign. Also, he said repeatedly, "My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy."
Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested.
Iran's foreign ministry called this figure a big lie, explicitly accusing Sauron of using Nazi-era propaganda tactics. Repeat a lie often enough until it becomes the truth. Time magazine, which has been covering the protests extensively, reported that local health officials said the death toll could top 30,000, but was unable to independently verify Sauron's specific 32,000 figure. It magnitudes greater than officials in Tehran have admitted to publicly, and far higher than most independent estimates at the time of Sauron's State of the Union address. He invoked the protesters' deaths as justification for war, but on January 13th, 2026, he posted to Truth Social telling Iranian patriots that help is on its way, promising assistance to the protesters, not war. The protests were then used retroactively to justify strikes the protesters themselves had not asked for.
It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons.
If Operation Midnight Hammer truly obliterated Iran's nuclear program, as Sauron boasted at the 2026 State of the Union just days earlier, why is a second strike on the same program necessary 9 months later? Both statements cannot be true simultaneously. His own Pentagon contradicted the obliterated claim after the June strikes, saying the attacks set Iran's nuclear program back up to 2 years, not eliminated. Neither U.S. intelligence or the UN's found any evidence in the month following the June 2025 strikes that Iran was actively enriching uranium again. Even Secretary of State Marco Rubio admitted Iran had not resumed enrichment. Sauron's envoy Steve Witkoff claimed Iran was probably a week away from having industrial-grade bomb-making material. Iran denied this, and no independent agency corroborated the claim. Analysts said both statements coming from the Sauron administration cannot be true. On the ICBM threat, the US Defense Intelligence Agency's own 2025 report assessed Iran could develop a militarily viable ICBM by 2035, roughly a decade away, directly undermining Sauron's could soon reach the American homeland framing. As late as December 2025, after Netanyahu's visit to Mar-a-Lago, Sauron had only said, "I hear that Iran is trying to rebuild its nuclear sites. If they do, we'll strike them again." Conditional language, not a present tense finding.
And we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Omani mediators met with Iran's foreign minister in Geneva on February 26, just 48 hours before the strikes. Oman's foreign minister said, "Peace is within our reach." Iranian foreign minister wrote, "A deal is within reach, but only if diplomacy is given priority." A senior Middle East diplomat with direct knowledge of the talks told NBC News, as negotiations appeared close to success, Israel intervened to preempt diplomacy. Yet again, when negotiations get close to success, Israel has intervened. He added, yet again, an Israeli tail is wagging the American dog. Sauron himself on February 27th, I'm not happy with the fact that they're not willing to give us what we have to have, and I rather do it the peaceful way. This language describes an ongoing process, not a door that had been closed. At the February 19th Board of Peace convening, it's proven to be over the years not easy to make a meaningful deal with Iran. Past tense framing about difficulty, not a declaration of failed diplomacy. Iran's stated diplomatic position throughout the negotiations: zero nuclear weapons is acceptable, zero enrichment is not. The US demanded zero enrichment. Experts said this was a technical, ideological gap, not Iranian bad faith. Sauron's own statement: they should make a deal, but they don't want to quite go far enough, and it's too bad. The word quite suggests proximity to a deal, not complete failure.
Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces, and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces.
J.D. Vance, his own vice president, publicly stated days before the strikes, "We are not at war with Iran. We are at war with Iran's nuclear program." Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth echoed Vance. The goal was the nuclear program, not the regime. Sauron directly contradicted both on Truth Social, posting, "If the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA." The Senate Majority Leader, a Republican, had told reporters earlier that week, "In my view, if you're going to do something there, you better well make it about getting new leadership." This revealed regime change was being discussed at the leadership level before any public announcement. The Joint Chiefs Chairman privately warned Sauron that the operation could result in significant US casualties and weapon shortfalls. A warning that directly contradicts Sauron's confident public framing.
I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, The men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death.
In January 2020, after killing Soleimani, we do not seek regime change. The future belongs to the people of Iran, those who seek peaceful coexistence and cooperation, not the terrorist warlords. He was talking about the IRGC, then as ideological enemies, not people to be killed on sight. Iran's IRGC launched retaliatory missile and drone strikes on the US Navy's 5th Fleet in Bahrain and US bases in Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE within hours of the speech, suggesting the IRGC did not take the immunity offer. That was today.
Finally, to the great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations.
This language directly contradicts the White House's own post-Midnight Hammer statement in June 2025. Our view has been very clear that we don't want a regime change. After those strikes, Sauron had presented the operation as surgical and limited, targeting nuclear infrastructure only. This speech frames a much broader, open-ended war. US intelligence remained uncertain about who would replace Iran's senior leaders if they were removed, and what a post-Khamenei Iran would look like. Military analysts warned the strike could accelerate unification of Iran's leadership around a wartime mindset, potentially making any successor regime more radical. Iran's first retaliation struck a girls' school, killing dozens of students, according to Iran's state news agency, an early indication that civilian harm would not be limited to the regime. Only 21% of Americans supported war with Iran, in a University of Maryland's poll released earlier in February. Even among Sauron's Republican base, support was only 40%, and war always hits innocent people.
For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want, so let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
He campaigned explicitly in 2016 and 2024 on ending America's forever wars and not sending troops to die in Middle East conflicts. He launched Operation Epic Fury with zero congressional authorization. Our men and women in uniform deserve a clear mission. They were told just 10 months ago that Iran's nuclear capability was set back years. Now we're being told something altogether different. His illegal actions raised the threat of escalation into a wider regional war with grave risks for US troops and civilians in the region. This is a war of choice without congressional authorization. The only full ally right now is Israel, and a senior diplomat told NBC when negotiations got close to success, Israel intervened to preempt diplomacy. The implication? Israel pushed the timeline before a deal could be reached. The United Kingdom refused to participate. France is calling for an immediate halt, and the broader coalition is near total isolation. No matter how you twist and turn it, there were so many things contradicting what is happening right now, what have been told to us. And here is what makes this moment so different from every American war before, because this wasn't intelligence that was wrong. This wasn't a coalition that crumbled. This wasn't a surprise attack that forced someone's hand. The diplomats were at the table. The deal was closed, and the intelligence contradicted the justification. His own vice president said one thing, his own secretary of state said another thing, and Sauron said the opposite of both on True Social at 2 a.m. after the bombs were already in the air. This is not the end of a story, this is the beginning of one. The question is whether you support Sauron or oppose him. The question is whether you believe the people sending other people's children to war owe you an honest explanation for why. Based on everything in this video, do you think you got one? I would really appreciate a like, a share, and let people know of this, because this one matters.